The first thing I noticed was the ceiling. Not my ceiling, white plain, nothing like the familiar patterns of my bedroom walls. The morning sunlight poured in through large, elegant windows, reflecting off the polished wood floor. I blinked, disoriented. Something felt wrong. Sitting up, I tried to reach for my glasses, but they weren't there. My hands felt smaller, softer. I looked down and froze. Long nails, smooth skin, and the sleeves of a crisp blouse brushing my wrists. My heart pounded. Panic rose in my chest, sharp and unrelenting. Wait. This isn't my room. I swung my legs off the bed and nearly stumbled. The slippers that slid across the floor were delicate, pink, and entirely unfamiliar. I caught my reflection in a full-length mirror across the room. It wasn't me. Not Ryan. Not the guy who had stayed up late grading assignments and secretly tinkering with cosplay outfits in his spare time. The face staring back was eerily familiar, yet completely alien. Soft features, warm brown eyes, delicate cheeks. And hair, long, silky, cascading down past the shoulders in glossy waves. And then it hit me. Oh no, it can't be. Mrs. Thompson. I whispered, my voice high and trembling. It was. Somehow overnight, or through some impossible twist, I had woken up in the body of my teacher, my high school's beloved English instructor. The same woman who commanded respect in the classroom, the same one whose poised presence had always made me a little nervous, a little odd. A knock on the door startled me. My brain scrambled. Who's there? Good morning, Mrs. Thompson. Breakfast is ready. A familiar voice chirped. My neighbor's daughter, or was it my memory's voice? Had somehow crossed over into this new reality. My pulse raced. Every sound felt amplified, every movement unfamiliar. I needed answers, but more urgently, I needed to hide. The thought of being discovered in this body, facing the students, my friends, or even my own family in this form, made sweat bead at my temples. I rushed to the wardrobe, flinging open the doors. Professional skirts, blouses, and neatly pressed dresses stared back at me. Each piece seemed to whisper, "This is her life now. This is your life now." My hands shook as I reached for a pale blue pencil skirt and matching blouse. Slipping into the outfit was surreal. The fabric felt alive, as if it remembered the teacher's movements better than I ever could. I glanced around the room, taking in every detail. The desk, stacked with lesson plans, grading papers, and a neatly placed red pen, looked untouched, as if awaiting the real Mrs. Thompson. Her glasses sat delicately atop a stand, her favorite scarf draped over the chair. Everything screamed authenticity, and I was painfully aware that any misstep could betray me immediately. My reflection haunted me. The soft jawline, the warm smile that wasn't mine, the confident posture that I now had to mimic. It was overwhelming. I practiced raising my hands, speaking softly, forcing the voice that was not my own. "Good morning, class," I whispered, faltering, almost laughing at how strange it sounded. Then came the phone on the desk. A message from the school secretary blinked on the screen. "Faculty meeting in 30 minutes. Don't be late, Mrs. Thompson." I froze. Meeting? In 30 minutes? With the principal and other teachers? My mind raced. How could I possibly navigate an entire day in her life without being discovered? Every glance, every movement, every word would be under scrutiny. And the worst part, I was starting to feel a strange pull toward this new identity. It wasn't just about hiding anymore. Something inside me liked it. The way the blouse hugged my frame, the subtle sway of the skirt as I practiced walking, even the unfamiliar warmth of the voice when I spoke, it was intoxicating. A mixture of fear and excitement twisted inside me. I looked at her neatly arranged makeup on the vanity. Trembling, I reached for the foundation, the blush, the subtle lip color. Applying it was a revelation. Each stroke softened my features, brought out the warmth in the eyes staring back at me. By the time I was done, I barely recognized the girl in the mirror, but I was beginning to feel her. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. I stiffened, frozen mid-pose. My first student, Emma, peeked in with an innocent smile. "Mrs. Thompson, are you ready for class?" "Why yes. Yes, I am," I stammered, voice cracking just slightly. Panic mixed with exhilaration. This was it. The first real test of living as her. As I stepped out of the room, the familiar halls of my school looked different through her eyes. The lockers, the chatter, the echoes of hurried footsteps. It was the same place, yet entirely new. Every glance from a student, every whispered conversation, seemed to carry layers of judgment and expectation. I had to embody her perfectly. And somewhere, deep down, a part of me wondered, could I actually do this? Could I survive the day as Mrs. Thompson? Or was this just the beginning of a transformation that would go far beyond a single school day? The first bell rang, and my heart skipped. I walked the hallways in her shoes, heels that clicked sharply against the linoleum, each step making me hyper-aware of my new form. Students' eyes occasionally flicked in my direction, and I caught myself mimicking her calm, confident gait, forcing a smile that felt unnatural on my lips. I reached the classroom and paused outside, taking a deep breath. The door handle was cold in my hand. Opening it felt like stepping into another world, a world I now occupied entirely. Inside, the familiar chaos of teenagers settling into seats seemed magnified, their chatter louder than I remembered. "Good morning, class." I tried to sound like her, clear, firm, and warm. The words trembled out initially, but I quickly regained composure. A few students glanced at me oddly, perhaps sensing something was off. I froze for a fraction of a second, and panic flared. "Don't slip up, don't slip up." I began the lesson, reciting the day's topic. Every phrase felt foreign yet familiar, as if I were channeling someone else's memories. Writing on the board, answering questions, giving feedback. My hands moved almost instinctively. But each small victory came with a tension-filled reminder, any tiny mistake could expose me. During a break, I walked to the staff lounge, pretending to sip coffee. Other teachers nodded in greeting. "Morning, Mrs. Thompson," they said. My throat tightened. I forced a natural smile, but inside, a storm of anxiety brewed. I had to navigate not just her life with students, but her interactions with colleagues. Each casual comment or glance could reveal my secret. Then came the whispers. One of the students, Emma, leaned over to her friend. "Didn't Mrs. Thompson sound different today?" I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to disappear, to retreat to the safety of her office, but every movement now had weight. I caught myself noticing things I had never seen before. How her hair shined under fluorescent lights, how the hem of her skirt swayed with a rhythm I instinctively had to match, how the soft lilt in her voice commanded attention without effort. As the day progressed, the lessons flew by, yet each interaction escalated my inner conflict. There was exhilaration in successfully impersonating her, in walking in her shoes, literally. But the fear of being caught simmered constantly beneath the surface, a pressure that made every word, every gesture, feel amplified. The next challenge arrived in the form of a parent-teacher conference. Her desk was neatly organized with notes on students, but my mind raced. Could I handle this? What if a parent asked a question I couldn't answer? I was about to find out. A mother entered, smiling warmly. "Hello, Mrs. Thompson. I wanted to discuss Michael's progress." I swallowed hard. "Of course. Please take a seat." My voice shook slightly. I noticed the mother's subtle gaze, judging, evaluating, expecting the real Mrs. Thompson. I answered questions carefully, using her phrases, her tone, even borrowing her mannerisms. By some miracle, the mother left satisfied, but my knees threatened to buckle from the adrenaline surge. By lunchtime, I realized something unsettling. I was starting to feel like her. Not just wearing her body, but thinking in her patterns, seeing the world through her eyes. My old self, the casual, lazy, unassuming Ryan, was fading, replaced by this polished, elegant, composed persona. But with this exhilaration came vulnerability. I had a moment alone in the staff restroom, staring at the reflection of my new body. The blush on my cheeks, the way my skirt hugged curves I didn't recognize as mine, even the subtle scent of her perfume, it all reminded me that I was living a borrowed life. A life that could be taken away or exposed in an instant. Then came the phone call from the principal. "Mrs. Thompson, could you cover the assembly today? I know it's last minute, but we need someone who can handle the students." My stomach dropped. An assembly? Hundreds of students. One slip, one misstep. I could be found out in front of everyone. Panic surged, but alongside it, a strange thrill. The stakes had never been higher, and somewhere deep inside, I craved the challenge. I spent the next hour preparing, walking the stage in the empty auditorium, practicing her confident posture, modulating my voice. Each moment was a battle between fear and excitement, between my old identity and the one I now had to perform flawlessly. As the students filed in, hundreds of eyes turned toward me. My heart raced, and I felt a surge of both terror and empowerment. I began the assembly, speaking, gesturing, smiling, and for a brief, fleeting moment, I forgot I was anyone else. I was her, at least for now. But then, during a question from the audience, I stumbled on a phrase. My accent, my timing, just slightly off. A few students whispered. My face burned. I clenched my fists, forcing composure. Not now, not here. After the assembly, I hurried back to the classroom, my legs shaking from tension. I leaned against the door, closing my eyes. The adrenaline faded, leaving a hollow mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. I had survived, but the realization hit me, living her life wasn't just a challenge, it was consuming me. Every thought, every action, every glance reminded me that I was trapped in her world. And just when I thought I could breathe, the phone on her desk buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know what you did. Don't make a mistake tomorrow. My stomach dropped. Someone knew. Or someone suspected. The thrill of living as her was now tainted with dread. The suspense, the danger, the vulnerability, it had only just begun. The next morning, I woke up in a haze of panic and adrenaline. My alarm buzzed, but the usual comfort of my room was gone. I was still in her body, still trapped in her life, and now the anonymous message from yesterday lingered in my mind. Who knew? Who was watching? I had barely finished my morning routine, carefully applying makeup, adjusting her skirt, checking the fit of her blouse, when the first warning sign appeared. The classroom door creaked open, and a figure I didn't expect stepped in, Mr. Carter, the vice principal. His eyes narrowed as they scanned the room, landing on me. Mrs. Thompson, he said slowly, almost too slowly. We need to discuss an incident. My heart plummeted. The assembly. The message. Did he know? I swallowed hard, forcing calm. Of course, sir. What's the matter? He leaned closer, lowering his voice. There are rumors, students talking about unusual behavior. I need you to be extra cautious today. Caution. That word alone made my pulse spike. Every move, every gesture, every word now carried the weight of exposure. By mid-morning, the tension had escalated to almost unbearable levels. Students whispered, some sneaky glances met mine, and every question I answered had me teetering on the edge of discovery. I could feel my confidence slipping. Then came the challenge I had dreaded, the surprise classroom inspection by the principal. The door burst open, and there she was, the real Mrs. Thompson, well, the real her in some metaphysical sense, mirrored in my body. Or maybe a vision, or my own fear manifesting. It didn't matter. What mattered was the confrontation that felt inevitable. Good morning, she said, voice cold but familiar. My pulse hammered. I tried to respond, but the words tangled in my throat. She stepped closer, inspecting my posture, my tone, my every gesture. I could feel the classroom's eyes on us, the students holding their breath. You're different today, she said finally, a hint of suspicion in her tone. More confident, maybe, but something feels off. The blood drained from my face. She knows. She must know. I wanted to run, to flee, to tear off the clothes that weren't mine and return to safety, but the realization struck, I couldn't. Not yet. Suddenly, a student raised a hand, innocently. Mrs. Thompson, are you feeling okay? You seem different. Laughter rippled through the room, nervous but piercing. I forced a smile, sweating under her skirt, balancing heels that now felt like a cage. The principal's sudden arrival added fuel to the fire. Mrs. Thompson, can I speak with you for a moment? My stomach sank. This was it, the moment where my secret would unravel. I followed her, heels clicking like a countdown to disaster. In her office, I fumbled, words tripping over themselves. I've been trying something new with my teaching style, I stammered. She didn't buy it. Her eyes narrowed. Something tells me there's more than that. I suggest you be honest, before things get worse. Panic surged. My mind raced for solutions. What if I confessed? Would she believe me? Would she call security? Could I escape this nightmare? At that moment, a loud crash echoed from the classroom. One of the students had tripped over a backpack, sending papers flying. The distraction was enough to buy me a moment of respite, but my relief was fleeting. I returned to the classroom, heart pounding. Every whisper, every glance, every step now felt like a test of survival. Students stared, the air thick with anticipation. And then, the most dangerous moment, a close call with the vice principal. He walked past, stopping just inches from my desk. "You're doing fine," he said, almost approvingly. His shadow lingered, and I exhaled silently, relief mingled with terror. By afternoon, I was exhausted, emotionally and physically. But the final test awaited, the school assembly where I would have to address the entire student body in her persona. Walking onto the stage, hundreds of eyes on me, I felt exposed. The lights were blinding, the murmurs deafening, and my own heartbeat seemed to echo in my ears. I took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of courage I had left. "Good afternoon, students," I began, voice steady but trembling inside. "I want to talk about responsibility, respect, and choices we make." Halfway through, a student whispered something that made my blood run cold. "Is that really Mrs. Thompson?" The auditorium fell silent. Hundreds of pairs of eyes locked on me. I froze, feeling the weight of every expectation, every secret, every lie pressing down. Then, a phone buzzed, my own, somehow. A text appeared on the projector screen from the unknown number. "Time's up. Make your choice." Gasps filled the room. I stumbled slightly, the hem of my skirt catching on the podium. My wig shifted. The adrenaline surged like fire. I knew I had one moment to act, one decision that could change everything. And then the screen went dark. The auditorium lights dimmed slightly, leaving me in a spotlight that felt like it was burning through my very skin. Hundreds of eyes were on me, yet it felt like the room had collapsed into silence, focusing only on the trembling figure I had become. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum, reminding me how dangerously close I was to exposure. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "Decide now. She's watching." I froze. She's watching? Who? Mrs. Thompson? Or someone else entirely? My mind raced. The stage felt impossibly high, the applause that might have come now replaced by sharp, questioning stares. Every step I took was calculated, yet my body betrayed me, heels clicking unevenly, wig slightly askew, skirt swaying like it had a life of its own. I could feel the sweat trickling down my back. I adjusted my blouse, tried to steady my voice, but it shook with tension. "And that is why choices matter," I finished weakly, my words hollow even to me. The silence was deafening. Suddenly, a shadow flickered at the edge of the stage. My breath caught. Was it the real Mrs. Thompson? Or the unknown figure behind all of this? My pulse raced as every scenario played through my mind. Do I run? Confess? Try to play it off? A sharp whisper from behind me made my stomach drop. "Did you think you could hide forever?" I spun around, but there was no one, just the empty edge of the stage and the bright auditorium lights reflecting off polished floors. The audience sensed the tension, some shifting nervously, others leaning forward, captivated. My hands shook as I gripped the podium. Every instinct screamed at me to escape, yet the impossible truth anchored me. I couldn't. Not yet. The life I'd stepped into, the secret I'd been forced to live, and the thrill I couldn't deny, all of it pressed against me, demanding a choice I wasn't sure I was ready to make. Another buzz. My phone vibrated violently. I dared not look. The suspense was unbearable. I could hear my own heartbeat, rapid and relentless, echoing through the room. The unknown threat, the fear of being discovered, and the overwhelming vulnerability of my transformation collided into one paralyzing moment. And then, the screen behind me flickered to life, displaying a single line in bold red letters. One wrong move, and it's all over. Gasps filled the auditorium. I felt exposed, yet helplessly drawn into the invisible game controlling my every move. My knees weakened, my grip on the podium tightened, and my eyes darted around, searching, pleading for an escape that didn't exist. The room was frozen in suspense. And so was I. The story ended there, for now. The audience was left holding their breath, hearts racing alongside mine. Would I survive the scrutiny? Would my secret be revealed? Or would I have to surrender entirely to the life I'd never chosen? The answer was uncertain.